Brother, students, scholars, teachers and trainers, all professors and professionals, listeners and learners, those who are listening from the field of arts, commerce, science and engineering, the most honorable President Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, respected ministers and doctors, honorable advocates, advertisers, administrators and advisors, reverend fathers and mothers, affectionate sons and daughters. You are listening. I, Dr. Rakesh from USA, heartily, cordially welcome all of you. It is really nice time, nice place, nice action. Nice to see all of you, nice to talk to you. Dear friends, as it is well known that today is 30th of December 2022, immemorial in India, when we go through the past civilizations and its cultures, really are unrecorded, unaccounted, unread, unspoken and unheard throughout the world. Dear friends, what is the great identity of our nation? That is unity in diversity. And our every scholar, learner, reader, writer, speaker, listener, learner, those who are doing research in the foreign universities, Atlanta, Harvard, Cambridge, Oxford, Edinburgh, Pennsylvania. Dear friends, as per my observation and self-examination, self-evaluation, it is concluded that if we keep our mind and heart 100% with present sense of mind, it provides the existence of Lord or God in every particle of the air, fire, soil, sky and water. Dear friends, after all, you have selected title or any topic for your research, but the true research is the research of our holy scriptures of our holy land, by which our India is known internationally by its spiritual values. Time and again, the role model of our present Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, Swami Vivekananda, who advocated and appealed to the worldly people by putting these two words, my brothers and sisters of the America. These words are the symbol of our culture and variations of our climate. Whether we have diversities, adversities, varieties in the different streams like economy, politics, history, social science, but after all, we are known by unity in diversity, oneness, equality, unity, humanity. These are the great icons, symbols of our culture. So we should never forget and always remember that every day of India is celebrated as a festival because of the sacrificial bodies sacrificed and martyrdom. These are the important concepts of our Indian culture. Our Indian culture is known by its patience, tolerance, uniqueness, oneness in every stream. So, dear friends, in our daily routine, we must recollect the holy words of God. These words keep us in our present. Swami Vivekananda, who proved to the worldly people by saying that soundless and lightless places are also the form of God, as per the observation of the Vedas. Through the Vedas, the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, these are the most ancient scriptures of our holy land. Dear friends, this Indian land welcome, respect, thank all kind of religions, caste, color, creed, because of its constitutional rights. Its secularism provides guarantee to the freedom of human rights, and our old rights, principles, the whole construction of our constitution is composed from the different religions of the world. So our Indian constitution is the representative of the worldly cultures. Dear friends, as you know that today we are going to spending our time, maximum time watching on social media, YouTube, Instagram, these inventions and innovations that we are consuming and using at our home, in offices, in the different places. That is the contribution of our Indian brain. Through the brain drain, they have provided a lot of techniques to the worldly people. In the presence of our present Prime Minister, today India is not only the user, but it is the explorer, exporter of all the worldly services in the field of agriculture, industry, means of communication, means of transportation, railways, post offices. In the different fields, we see remarkable change, revolutionary and visionary change. In the end of this year, when we analyze patriotistically and nationalistically, worldly people have felt proud on its culture because of its sacrifices, our sacrificial bodies. They came on this earth time to time in the different religions, caste, color, creed and language, but their common message of humanity was given to the worldly people, and they spent their maximum time with nature. Dear friends, we must remember that Ayurveda, naturopathy, physiotherapy, these are the most ancient traditional therapies that was invented and innovated by our Indian culture, and that can be provided to all the worldly people for enhancing the talents, skills, manners, styles of our youngsters, for enhancing the talents and standard of our youngsters. Our present Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji has started Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, and in the different states, respectable ministers started different skill enhancement programs for providing, for empowering our youth and women, which is a great need. After the corona epidemic, India has become not only the user of these such kind of medicines, but it is equally important to note that how we are providing and serving at the international level to the worldly people in the field of medicine for preventing such kind of epidemics. So dear friends, all the natural disasters, calamities that occurs suddenly, accidentally, unfortunately, these are handled by our Indian culture and climate smoothly because of its identity. All the holy saints, freedom fighters, free thinkers, messengers came on this world, especially in India, for providing the message of truth from science to spirituality, language to literature. When we read the history of all the worldly religions, all the worldly languages, we read this thing that 14th, 15th and 16th century period, which was the remarkable period for the Indians, for starting the different discoveries, inventions, innovations. Like we read 19th and 20th century period, that was the period of revolution in industrialization. Today, by the starting of 5G, from 1st of October, our all metropolitan cities have become integrated. They have united with each other, and many services are being provided online. Through the online and live services, every customer can get all kind of services while sitting at home. It is the great advancement and progress of our motherland, of our native. Our every common people of the common villagers have become the best user of these transactions. 40% people of our villagers have become the vast user of this technology. So this technology, techniques that are very important, and firstly that was given to us by the English people, different type of people to India, and Indian land respected them, welcomed them, thanked them for every kind of advancements. Today in this modern world, our India has become the nation of starters, country of beginners, in the presence of our present Prime Minister Modi ji. And we are reading in the history, in 2014 there were initiatives, but that was countable. Now unaccountable initiatives are being taken by the different fields of our nation, not only in India but also in abroad. In the history we read that some persons under dictatorship or tyranny, they brought Second World War, First World War, due to the climax and culmination in the science, excessive use of our mind. So it is rightly said that much knowledge makes man humble, little knowledge makes man pride, by Alexander Pope. But when we become the victim in the hands of the Satan, negative powers, then these negativities brings tyrannyship and dictatorship. So consequently there was Second World War. Later on, Russia, which struggled against Ukraine. At that time, our present Prime Minister appealed and advocated to the worldly people for maintaining peace and not to interfere with the nature. This is only the nature which is always friendly and familiar with us. It is not the national heritage of any particular country. So every resources, natural heritage that are given by our forefathers, foretellers, forecasters, to enhance the humanity, to maintain the humanity all over the world. So dear friends, there should not be any interference by any country on the basis of its narrownesses, inferiorities, weaknesses, shortcomings, flaws. These are not forever. Born on January 15, 1929 in Atlanta, Georgia. Martin Luther King Jr. King was a Baptist minister and civil rights activist and had a positive impact on race relations in the United States beginning in the mid 1950s. Among his many efforts, King headed the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. He was determined to use the peaceful method of civil disobedience propounded by Henry David Thoreau and perfected by inspirational speeches. He played a pivotal role in ending the legal segregation of African American citizens in the United States, as well as the creation of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 19, among several other honors. He was assassinated in April 1968 and continues to be remembered as one of the most influential and inspirational African American leaders. Dear friends, as you know that for making our nation independent and to make it free intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, personally, professionally, publicly, what is the greatest thing that is required and needed? Most importantly and most probably, I would like to say that India is celebrating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav after passing its 75 years of independence. Where will be India after passing 100 years after the 1 century? India will stand one of the greatest. So time and again we are to respect and welcome our tri-colored flag. Our present Prime Minister flagged off different programs in the different states for rejuvenating and reoperating, reforming, regenerating, redeveloping the different missions of our country. Our country is known as the land of gurus. So to maintain its standard, it is very necessary to go through, to remember different personalities, those who came time to time on this earth. Gautam Buddha, who started Buddhism, Mahavir Swami, who started Jainism, Raja Ram Mohan Rai, who started Brahm Samaj, Dayanand Saraswati, who started Arya Samaj. Many starters, beginners came in India for providing us the message of oneness and equality. And Swami Vivekananda also addressed to the worldly people. We feel the presence of Lord in unread, unspoken, unlistened, and clearly, most clearly, he addressed the worldly people by saying that return to the Vedas. And it is the common teaching of our all holy religions that is return to nature, return to your childhood. So these are the starting points of our life. I have a dream is a political speech delivered by Martin Luther King Jr., a civil rights campaigner, to a large crowd on 28th August 1963 in Lincoln's Memorial Park, Washington, D.C. This demonstration was organized to call attention to the wrongs suffered by African Americans and to push for federal legislation to bring about change. Still regarded as one of the greatest and most memorable public speeches in history, it marked a defining moment in the American civil rights movement. This speech was made on the occasion of 100 years of Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, which set the Negro slaves free from their slavery in America. The proclamation had brought a great hope to millions of Negro slaves living in America. They hoped that there would be no more injustice based on the color of the skin and they wouldn't be captive as slaves anymore. Luthar describes apartheid, discrimination on the basis of color, as the extreme point of human cruelty and demands for its end. He invited people to join hands with him and make a demand to rise from the path of segregation of the path of racial justice. The revolt would continue unless and until the demands are fulfilled. However, he advises that any means of violence should not be applied. Our present Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji also addressed the worldly people. Non-violence is the base of all holy religions. If there is violence, then there is not the question of any religion or any culture, caste. So it is greatly required these fundamentals, principles and doctrines of life that was also propounded by Mahatma Gandhi for our all worldly people. He further advises them to use their strength in creative works. These works of creativity, generativity, operativity in the different sectors which was started by Gandhiji when he started non-cooperation movement. He helped the people to start the constructive and compositional works. Every work that they were doing, they were appreciated by our respected father Mahatma Gandhiji in the different fields. These constructive works and creative works brought a revolutionary and visionary change. So likely that it is the time to put our energy in doing something creative. He wants the government that there would not be peace if laws are not practiced accordingly. His desire is for the oasis of freedom in place of bondage. He dreams that the children would not be judged on the basis of their color, rather they would be judged on the basis of their intelligence. When we go through the history, dear friends, in 1869 Mahatma Gandhi and Swami Vivekananda both got birth. Both they were equally participated for the India's struggle for independence and they contributed equally. They efforted just after the first battle of 1857. After 90 years, India got freedom. Now remained works, black and white, for the prosperity of the nation depends on that their movement shouldn't be called off until their demands are met. He also appealed to his people that their movement shouldn't support physical violence, wrongful deaths, bitterness. He demands people should have right to stay in the same school where the white children study. Their social position must be uplifting and they should have voting rights. He inspires the black people to keep on fighting until they feel they are created equal. Moreover, he wishes so for the prosperity of the nation depends on it. Later he discusses about his dream that one day his nation will rise up. Dear friends, as per the observation of the history, we study that in 1913, Rabindranath Tagore, Gurudev, who was awarded Nobel Prize winner, firstly in literature, who wrote Where the Mind is Without Fear, Heaven of Freedom, Gitanjali. These are his milestone and landmarks that provide us naturality and spontaneous overflow of our powerful feelings that are recollected in our tranquility of our heart and mind. Per the write-up of Martin Luther King, we have studied, and as per his personal observation he has written, I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom of our nation. In the discovery of India, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, who has written that our present lies in the past. So our past, our recordings, downloadings, imitations are equally important for learning the new skills and trainings, techniques for our youngsters. 50 years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon of light or hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the change of discrimination. Dear friends, our Indian Constitution gives us the guarantee of equality. There is no discrimination on the basis of caste, color, creed and language, but all are equally treated and accepted by our religion, by our culture, by our constitutional rights. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. Dear friends, our past is the evidence of the exploitation and injustice with the black people, which was strived hard by our respected father Mahatma Gandhi in the South Africa. From the South Africa, in our Indian Constitution, we have captured remedial laws. 100 years later, the Negro is still languishing in the corners of American society and finds himself an exile in his own land. So we have come here today to dramatize a shameful condition. In a sense, we have come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall here. This note was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the alienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note in so far as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds, but we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great wallets of opportunity of this nation. So we have come to cash this check, a check that will give us a of justice. We have also come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in die luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to make read. Now it is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of the God's children. Dear friends, that we read gives us, provides us energy. On the basis of the ancient glorious tradition are to teach and learn, disobedience, offense, ill words, the tables turn. Lies, jealousy and ego, whosoever feeds, time and again he dies in spirit as well in deeds. Humanity and humility, arrogant loses all, whosoever. What is written by our great men, forefathers, foretellers? Those who commit sincerely patriotism and prayer attain spiritual peace, divine glimpse, the social status, whatever there. Elevate the grace of land to which you really belong. Indelible would be thy fame if it is kept up along. So these are the valuable words that are written, given, provided us to implement in our practical life. It would be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment. This sweltering summer of the Negroes' legitimate discontent will not pass until there is an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. 1963 is not an end but a beginning. Those who hope that the Negro needed to blow off steam and will now be content will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual. There will be neither rest nor tranquility in America until the Negro is granted his citizenship rights. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundations of our nation until the bright day of justice emerges. Dear friends, as per the reading of the American Constitution, we read that in our Indian Constitution we are given the rights human rights by the USA that got independence before 200 years than Indian independence, and this concept of democracy, which was coined by Abraham Lincoln, about whom we study in the poems of Walt Whitman, American poet, who explained these things in his different poems of Leaves of Grass, in Song of Myself. He says that where there is I, there is America. Means everyone should learn to be patriotic and nationalistic for their nation. Many freedom fighters, those who born in England, in the different nations of the world, in New Zealand, Australia, Ireland, they spent their time with the nature, and they thought that their body is made by their country, and where they will be lie, there will be their nation. So this concept should be adopted by our all professionals, bottom to top, root to fruit, which is the great requirement today. Dear friends, we know that nationalistic, patriotistic feelings means not to be narrow and inferior. You can love your country without hating with another country. When we go through the sayings of Oliver Goldsmith, we learn this thing. We should not discriminate at any basis, but equally everyone should be accepted and treated by everyone for creating and maintaining the peaceful standard, spiritual values, ideals, principles and doctrines of this nation, which is necessary. Further, but there is something that I must say to my people who stand on the warm threshold which leads into the palace of patience in the process of gaining our rightful place. We must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. It is rightly said in our all holy religions of this holy land, hate begets hate, anon hater burns himself alone. We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must our creative protest to generate into physical violence. Again and again we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. The marvelous new militancy which has engulfed the Negro community must not lead us to distrust of all the white people. For many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their dignity is tied up with our destiny. They have come to realize their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone. Dear friends, according to the thoughts of Swami Vivekananda, we have read that success means not the platform. Success means to do the work unrelentingly, unceasingly and unstoppingly. We are to keep on at our path without expecting and hoping, because it is written in our all holy religions of this holy land that if a man does his work, does his duty by his core of his heart, that never goes meaningless, but it brings rewards in exchange of it. As we walk, we must make the pledge that asking the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? We can never be satisfied as long as victim of the unspeakable horrors of police brutality. As per the sayings or writings of the John Keats, we study that beauty lies in the eyes of beholder. Beauty is beauty, beauty is duty. And we should never forget art is long, life is short. So our qualities, our virtues are always praiseworthy forever in past, present and future. We can never be satisfied as long as our bodies heavy with the fatigue of travel, cannot gain lodging in the motels of the highways and the hotels of the cities. We cannot be satisfied as the Negroes. Basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto to a larger one. We can never be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their selfhood and robbed of their dignity by signs stating for white only. We cannot be satisfied as long as a Negro in Mississippi cannot vote and a Negro in New York believes he has nothing for which to vote. No, we are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream. I am not unmindful that some of you have come here out of great trials and tribulations. Some of you have come fresh from narrow jail cells. Some of you have come from areas where your quest for freedom left you battered by the storms of and staggered by the winds of police brutality. You have been the veterans of creative suffering. Continue to walk with the faith that unearned suffering is redemptive. Go back to Mississippi, go back to Alabama, go back to South Carolina, go back to Georgia, go back to Louisiana, go back to the slums and ghettos of our northern cities, knowing that somehow this situation can and will be changed. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair. So I say you today, my friends, that even though we must face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin but by the content of their character. I have a dream today, dear friends. As per my personal observation, by going through the doctorate, researching on Swami Vivekananda's views, who preferred our character, and it is rightly said in our whole holy scriptures of this holy land, if your money is lost, nothing is lost. If your health is lost, something is lost. But if your character is lost, everything is lost. It is rightly kept by our social reformer Swami Vivekananda to the worldly people when he went to the USA in 1993, and that words created upheaval in the cultures of the world, and it brought great names. Likely that our youngsters must adopt this path of characterization. I have a dream that one day down in Alabama, with its vicious racist, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, every hill and mountain shall be made low, the rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is the faith that I go back to the with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brothers. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to the jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free and one day. This will be the day when all the God's children will be able to sing with a new meaning, my country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountain side let freedom ring. And if America is to be great nation, this must become true. So let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from curvaceous slopes of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountain side. Let freedom ring. And when this happens, when we allow freedom to ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black man and white man, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last. Dear friends, very important moment of your life. Your presence is praiseworthy, admirable and appreciable, that today you are listening the words of English literature, language and grammar. These words, it is written in all holy scriptures of this holy land in all languages, that these words fill us. These words are the hunger of our mind, true hunger of our mind. The word, as I see it, written by Albert Einstein. Perhaps all of you have heard about Albert Einstein, born in March 14, 1879. Albert Einstein. Through the German history, we have collected so many constitutional rights. Dear friends, all our principles of life we have taken from Germany. So duties are more important according to the nationalistic views of our Albert Einstein, German born, was an eminent scientist and a world famous physicist. His theories were instrumental in shaping the atomic age. He was awarded the Nobel Prize in 1921. In addition to his scientific work, Einstein was an influential humanist who spoke widely about politics, ethics, and social causes. The Word as I See It was originally published in Form and Century. The essay comprises Einstein's views about the purpose and ideals of life, democracy and dictatorship, war and peace, mystery and religion. So these are the fundamentally ideals that we have taken in our Indian Constitution: democracy and dictatorship, about the ideas of war and peace. During the time of emergency, we have to adopt such kind of guidelines, instructions from their constitution. The essay begins with the question of main purpose of human life. He believes that human beings are created for each other and are dependent on each other. He denounces class distinctions as they are based on force. He further talks about ideas and goals in life, that is truth, kindness and goodness. He expresses love for his profession and shows regard for his friends who are like-minded. At times he prefers to be alone so that he may think well. He condemns dictatorial and autocratic system of government. He further maintains that he believes in peace. The essay concludes with an affirmation of the mystery of eternity of human life, which reflects itself in myriad ways. One of these is a manifestation of reason in nature. The Word as I See It house the Wordsworthian thoughts. The Word is too much with us. Similarly, he has selected the title The Word as I See It. To whose destinies we are bound by the ties of sympathy. 100 times every day I remind myself that my inner and outer life are based on the labor of other men, living and dead, and that I must exert myself in order to give in the same measure, impressively aware that I am engrossing an undue amount of the labor of my fellow men. I regard class distinctions as unjustified and in the last resort based on force. I also good for everybody, physically and mentally. I do not believe in human freedom in the philosophical sense. Everybody acts not only under external compulsion but also in accordance with inner necessity. Scoffensers saying a man can do what he wants has been a very real inspiration to me since my youth. It has been a continual consolation in the face of life's hardships, my own and others, and an unfailing wellspring of tolerance mercifully mitigates the easily paralyzing sense of responsibility and prevents us from taking ourselves and other people all too seriously. It is conducive to a view of life which in particular gives humor its due. To inquire after the meaning or object of one's own existence or that of all creatures has always seemed to me absurd from an objective point of view. And yet everybody has certain ideals which determine the direction of his endeavor and his judgments. In this sense, I have never looked upon ease and happiness as ends in themselves. This ethical basis I call the ideal of a pigsty. The ideals which have lighted my way and time after time have given me new courage to face life cheerfully, have been kindness, beauty, and truth. Without the sense of kinship with men of like mind, without the occupation with the objective world, the eternally unattainable in the field of art and scientific endeavors, life would have seemed to me empty. The trite objects of human efforts, possessions, outward success, luxury have always seemed to be contemptible. Dear friends, your precious, valuable time you are spending in listening the words, sentences, and thoughts of this human life that are very important since our childhood. When we discuss about our childhood, the childhood years include the years from the age of 2 to, though the entire period of immaturity from birth to maturity is often called childhood. Development at this stage is characterized by growth of control over the environment. The child who as a baby learned to control his body now seeks to gain control over his environment so that he can make himself a part of it. During this period, the child learns to make social adjustments at this stage or age. Ultimately, in the 6th year, socialization is of paramount importance. The name gang age is sometimes given to this period because group activities of all sorts play an important role in the child's life. Further, we study adolescence. The adolescent years extend from the onset of puberty between the age of 11 and 13 in the average child to the age of maturity 21 years. The most important forms of development which occur are adjustment to the mature form of life, in which the child learns to be independent of adults and plans his life according to his own wishes. Generally speaking, adolescence may be looked upon as the last step in the long period of development which begins at the times of conception. By the end of adolescence, development has reached a point where the individual is legally and socially regarded as mature and thus capable of living an independent life free from supervision and guidance. Early childhood 2 to 6 years becomes active members of the group. He participates in group activities. Parallel play activity is no longer there. Social development during this stage depends much on their childhood. So dear friends, about this childhood, it was clearly written by William Wordsworth, return to your childhood for having the pleasures of your life. Dear friends, I once again thank all of you, welcome all of you, and pray to God for your wellness or well-being. May bring good wishes all of you. May you have happy new year. Thank you dear friends, thank you dear brothers and sisters. Today your presence is praiseworthy and